The chair will now recognize Rep. Kim from California for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman Davis and Ranking Member Muser. I want to thank the witnesses for being with us today. My district is California's 39th district in the suburban area in North Orange County, LA, and San Bernardino counties. And this is the area that I represent, and that is home to a robust startup and entrepreneur community. In 2020, the LA area startup ecosystem had approximately $3.6 billion in early stage funding for new startups. But in contrast, the average startup ecosystem globally received about $431 million in early stage funding for new startups. And in Orange County, early stage venture capital investment has grown from $107.5 million in 2010 to $404.2 million in 2019. Unfortunately, the administration's proposal to increase taxes on long-term capital gains will likely disincentivize investment on our entrepreneurs. So I'm concerned that the proposal to increase the marginal tax rate will punish small businesses categorized as pass-through entities such as sole proprietorships. It's worth noting that 95% of businesses file their taxes as pass-through entities. So let me pose this first question to Mr. Johnson. If the Biden administration's proposal is enacted, the U.S. could have the highest top capital gains tax rates among OECD countries. So can you describe what a higher capital tax rate would do to early stage funding?
Yes, thank you very much, Congresswoman Kim. Tax rates are important, as are programs and investments into entrepreneurship ecosystems. The Kauffman Foundation and the National Startup Coalition in their America's New Business Plan outlines sort of the both and of policies that create an environment to provide opportunity for entrepreneurs, a level playing field, reduce red tape, tax issues, funding the right kinds of capital at the right time, the knowledge of how to start a business and the types of supports that we're talking about here today with the SBA, and support for the opportunity to take a risk. From our entrepreneurs, we don't often hear about tax issues being their top issue. It certainly is most likely an issue. We heard from Mr. McGuire about the challenges he has faced. What we more often hear, what really bubbles to the top, is that they need support. They need help in developing their business model, in de-risking their technology, turning that idea into a new product, into new jobs, in connecting with sources of capital, being able to compete globally for capital and bring it into their community. So with in the policy environment, it needs to be a both and. How do we reduce regulation? How do we reduce red tape? How do we balance taxes with investments in supports and ecosystems?
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I want to stay on the topic, and let me pose the same question to Mr. McGuire. Would you agree that a higher capital tax rate put our entrepreneurs and startups at a competitive disadvantage compared to other countries? And can you cite an example?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. No one wants higher taxes. We all need to decide what the balance is for everyone out there. If you're asking me if the capital gains rate will impact investment in companies, absolutely, it will. Will it stop investment in other companies? No, it won't. I mean, we're still going to go out and work hard to sit there and try to make our businesses successful. What I think is more important is what you said before, 95% of taxable are pass-through entities. Once you start messing with capital gains and the personal income tax rate, you're going to impact every small business. I don't care if it's a barber shop or if it's a clearly clean products. You will start impacting them negatively.
Sure. I know I got a little time left. So, Mr. McGuire, I really appreciate your testimony as you talked about the difficulty in hiring employees. But I also give you a lot of kudos from growing from a very small 3 employee to over 300 employees. And that's because of your innovation and creativity. But I also wanted to talk to you about the recent CPI that rose to 5.4% in June compared to a year ago. This is the highest inflation numbers in 13 years. So can you tell us how the increase in prices and inflation impacts your small business?
You're going to see inflation. I don't think anyone on this committee should sit there and not think we're going to see inflation. In our business specifically, we're seeing between 15 to 30% increases in our raw material costs and in some of our supplies that are required to sit there and put our product out there to market. It's coming. Third quarter, fourth quarter, you're going to see it. I don't think there's any getting away from it. Your CPI is where that is right now. It's not going to be where it's going to be in the fourth quarter and in the first quarter of 2022.
Well, thank you. I see my time's up, so I yield back.